All right, welcome back to the Life and Stride podcast. This is episode 186. On this episode, I previewed the Chicago Elite Field races, men's and women's. The women's race is looking to be really competitive. We have a couple really strong Ethiopian women at the front. We have 5 women under 220 leading the way. Also for Team USA, we have Dakota Popehn, Lindsay Flanagan, and Natasha Rogers leading the way with their low 220 PRs. And the men's race, oh boy, we have a potential world record on tap. John Korir going for sub 201 in the marathon. He's going up against Jacob Kiplimo, that world half marathon record holder. And also the big storyline on the men's field for the American fans. We got Connor versus Rory going for the North American record of 205.36. Wow, it's going to be a great race. Also, Galen Rupp, swan song, question mark. So we'll see a lot of storylines here to look forward to. I break it all down for you on this episode. Please drop a comment, leave a review, share with a friend if you enjoyed. And of course, love you, mean it.
So word on the street is we're talking about our old jobs and our favorite jobs. Well, Chris Striegel used to work at Ken Comes Running Store, and I actually used to work at another one of our sponsors, Mason Construction. Mason Construction was started by my dad about 25 years ago, and it was my first job in high school. I later went away to college, got a degree in civil engineering, worked for another company, and then got hired away to the family business. And it was a top 3 life experience was working in the family business. We have a motto on the podcast. It's find people you love and do life with them. And this was a perfect example of that. When I go back to Louisville eventually to build my forever home, I'm going to have Mason Construction do it. And I've already actually been a customer of Mason Construction. My first house that I ever bought, it was a little 3-bed, 2-bath in St. Matthews. And Mason Construction came through and renovated it, added on to the main bed suite, totally redid the kitchen, and it was an incredible experience while I was actually working for them. So check out Mason Construction at masonconstructionky.com. If you're looking for a renovation or a new house, hit them up, masonconstructionky.com.
All right, welcome back. Episode 186 of the Life and Stride podcast. This is the Chicago Marathon Elite Field preview. Just me today. Hope you can bear just me. I'm really excited about this race, though. I'm going to be there. I'm not racing, obviously, but I'm excited to be there. I think there's potential for a men's world record, a men's American record. There's going to be a really competitive women's race, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So looking forward to being there. The weather looks like it's going to be kind of mid to high 50s at the start, maybe low 60s by the finish. So obviously that's not ideal, so to say, for a major or for a marathon, but it's not bad. You know, it could be worse. I think if it was in the low 60s to start, mid to high 60s by the finish, different story. Would not be ideal for a world record kind of situation, but it's going to be an exciting weekend. I'm excited to be there. So overall, Chicago Marathon, pretty flat course, great crowd support. One of the fastest majors. I would say Berlin is definitely a fast one as well, but if Chicago's got a good weather day, it's been proven, to be a world record course. So Kelvin Kiptum. And last year, obviously the women's race, Ruth Chepngetich, we'll get into that. She was busted for doping, which she ran 209. So, and that was a pretty warm day too, which probably did raise some red flags at the time, and then obviously she got busted after. So, let's dive right into the women's field. So, as I just mentioned, Ruth Chepngetich won last year in 209, blew away the women's field. Some people just came out straight up and said she's doping. There's no way that's legit. And unfortunately, she got popped for doping a few months after the race, but she didn't get popped like in testing before or after, like immediately after the race. So it's more than likely that her world record will stand in her name. Although, come on, it's not like she started. Let's think about this, right? If she set the world record, why would she start? And she was clean, right? If she was clean and set the world record, why would she start doping after the race? It's like, you're already the best in the world. You have the world's best time. Why do you need to start doping? So I think it's pretty clear she was probably doing some microdosing or something to get past the test, but I just don't understand like that logic of she started doping after the race. If she wasn't world record, if she's the world record holder, it just doesn't make sense. So unfortunately, there's no testing to go back and get her and take that record away from her. So women's marathon record might be stained until someone cleanly does it. So hopefully that happens soon, but 209, that's going to be tough to beat. So we'll see. So overall, I was looking at both the fields here, and this is funny. So I was actually asking ChatGPT to help me out, and it was just like useless. It was not helpful at all because it was giving me like Kelvin Kiptum in the preview and stuff, and I was like, Kelvin Kiptum's obviously not going to be there. So like, and there was people like that they had listed that weren't going to be there this year. So it was mixing up previous years. So yeah, ChatGPT, if you're looking for a Chicago preview, don't use ChatGPT. It was useless for this. So, but no worries. I got all the info we need. So the women's field overall is much smaller than the men's field. The kind of lead woman or the favorite woman in the race is Magertu Alemu of Ethiopia. So she's been on the Chicago podium prior, and she won Valencia with a 2:16 PB. So she's the favorite. She has the fastest time in this field. Overall, there's 5 women under 2:20 in the field. So the good thing is, like last year, right, the women's field was not very competitive at the front, or like it wasn't a good race at the front, right? Because she won in 2:09, so no one was like remotely close to that fitness level. But this year we have 5 women under 2:20. The fastest woman is a 2:16 marathoner, so we should have like a tighter women's pack at least through like 18:20, hopefully. So it should be like an exciting race to watch. Obviously, a world record is exciting to watch too, but now knowing that she was doping, it kind of takes that away. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. Hopefully, there's a battle to the finish in this race. Kind of the second person to look at for the women's title is also Ethiopian. Her name's Howie Fesa. I might be butchering these names. She's a 2:17 marathoner, and none of the women in this race have won a world major. So we're going to be crowning a new world major champion in this race, which is really exciting. So yeah, no like huge like household women's names in this race in terms of the non-USA field. So going to have like a new big name pop up probably from this race. And if conditions shape up, it should be ideally it should be a pretty fast time. If one of these women runs 2:15 or even 2:14 at the Chicago Marathon, that would definitely have them burst onto the pro scene and be one of the top women in the world. So yeah, more of an open, pretty open race in this women's field, and I'm excited to watch it. Real quick, we'll touch on the American women too, because I know many of you are American marathon or women's marathon fans. We'll start with friend of the pod, Dakota Popehn. If you haven't listened to her episode with us, it was a really good one. I think she ran 2:26 at Chicago, and she, I guess, said before or maybe after the race that she was like feeling like she was in shape to run a PR just based on her workouts and stuff. And obviously, like Boston's not always the course to PR on, but her PR is 2:24. So I'm thinking, and it seems like she's in pretty good shape based on Strava and socials. So I think she'll probably be shooting for sub 2:24. She'll have some competition. I think the 2 fastest American women in this race are going to be Lindsay Flanagan and Natasha Rogers. Both of these women have run 2:23. So Lindsay Flanagan she PR'd last year in this race. She ran 2:23, got 9th place. And then Natasha Rogers, who I believe runs for Puma. I think she started with Brooks and she runs for Puma now. I think she's on that team based in North Carolina. This is her major debut. So her PR is 2:23 from Nagoya, which is a marathon in Japan. It was a women's only marathon this year, which was really cool to have a like elite women's only race. So shout out to Nagoya Marathon in Japan. But yeah, she ran 2:23 at that race. This is her major debut, so I would look for her to step up. I don't think the women's American record is at risk here. I believe it's 2:18. So I don't think that is at risk in this field. But if one of these women runs 2:21, that'd be a really solid day and put them pretty firmly at the top 3 to 5 spots in American women's marathoning. So good overall American women's field. I wouldn't say like the absolute top dogs are here. Obviously, Dakota Popehn, you could consider her a top dog. She made the Olympic team. But yeah, look for these women to try to lower their PRs a bit by 2 or 3 minutes and get into that low 2:20 range and hopes to maybe break 2:20 one day. I do have a wild card for the women's race. So if you're looking for someone that's maybe like not being talked about or a big favorite in this race, it's actually someone that's debuting in this race. It's another Ethiopian. I'm going to butcher this name, but bear with me. It's Edge Gayehu Taye. And I would say she's the wild card because she's a really good track runner and she's young and this is her first marathon. So sometimes track athletes come to the marathon and they're really successful. But then you have someone like Joshua Cheptegei who like, he's a good marathoner, don't get me wrong, but I think if I recall correctly, his debut wasn't as like scintillating as people were expecting because he's the world record holder on the track in the 5K and 10K, right? So people were expecting him to like instantly be one of the best marathoners. And if I believe he ran like 2:0 high, like 2:07.89, something in that range in his debut. Didn't win the race. So yeah, sometimes the track athletes they need a little time to get better at the marathon. But so why do I think she's the wild card? She got sixth at the Paris Olympics in the 5K. Her PRs are 14:12 and 29:50, and she ran a half marathon in 1:05 in February. So if she's in good shape, I think a 1:05 half fitness, and this was 1:05 half in February. That's 8 months ago. If she's gotten any better since then, she's probably in like that 215 kind of area fitness, 215 to 217. So sometimes debuts go really well and they win the race. Sometimes maybe she run 225. So we don't really know, but I think if you're looking for a wild card in the race, if you're a betting person, she wouldn't be a bad one to throw a bet on. So that's kind of what I had for the women's race. Should be exciting. Hopefully, I it, I think it's going to be a better like overall vibe like when we look back on this race because one, it's going to be like more competitive, and then two, we're not going to have a convicted doper setting the world record at the race. So hopefully, it's a clean women's field. It's a good race to the finish, and yeah, it's a more positive memory Chicago Women's Marathon than last year. So, but yeah, that's the women's field. I'm going to make a pick here. I'm going to go with Howie Fesa. She's the second fastest time in the women's field. I'm going to go with her to win the race, and then top American. I'm going to go friend of the pod, Dakota Popehn. I think she's extremely motivated to PR. I think she's going to go out aggressively. She has a lot of really good marathon experience. I think it's going to pay off in this race for the top American woman in this elite field. So, and I predict she will run 2:22:36. So, book it. If she runs that, you owe me $5. Hey guys, Chris here. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to Ken Combs Running Store here in Louisville, Kentucky. If you're not from Louisville, you can shop online with them at We Run Lou. That's WeRunLOU.com. We have a discount code in the show notes. If you're a newer runner or an experienced runner and you live in Louisville, it's a great place to shop. They have everything you need with apparel, nutrition, awesome assortment of different brands with shoes, and they have carbon racing shoes, trainers, whatever you need. Workout shoes. If you're a newer runner, it's also a great place to start. They have an awesome staff, super friendly group of people that work there, and they can get you plugged in with a group. They have a workout group that does track nights, whatever you need to get started with running, just to meet people. It's so important to meet people when you're a new runner. Make sure you go to Ken Combs first. That's like a great place to start. But again, if you're not from Louisville, check out their website. We have the discount code in the show notes. And if you are from Louisville, there's nowhere else to shop for running stuff than Ken Combs. All right, let's dive into this men's race. Men's race has a lot of storylines. I'm really excited about this. A lot of storylines in the men's field. So obviously, you guys know who the favorite is. It's got to be John Korir. He won this race last year. He's a 202 guy. He won Boston. He's on a tear. He's probably in the conversation for best marathoner on earth right now. There's obviously Sebastian Sawe is probably in the conversation as well. But if John Korir, when they announced this elite field, he said he wants to run under 2:01, which is like in striking distance. I believe the world record is 2 hours like 2 hours 30 something. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's around 2 hours 30 and 30 seconds. So if he runs under 2:01, I mean, why would you shoot for 2 hours and 45 seconds if the world record is like that close? It's pretty clear. Like if you're saying you're going for under 2:01, you're going for the world record. Like, let's just be honest. So, yeah, I think John Korir is the favorite for this race. I heard that he's not. I have to double check this, but I heard he hasn't been posting on Strava. He was before Boston, and he was, putting in some really impressive work. He wasn't like posting like this is what I did today and anything in the description, but you could kind of see what he was doing based on the runs. So, but yeah, I haven't heard anything about injuries or anything like that. I'm assuming he had a great build. So yeah, if he's in that kind of shape, I would expect him to win. He's on a tear lately. Again, he won Chicago and Boston, the last iteration of both of those races. So look out for John Korir to win this race. And I hope when I'm in Chicago, I can witness world record. I'm going to be trying to get as much film of him as I can as he flies by. But really excited to witness that. He's like, looks so smooth when he's running. So world record will be awesome. I'm rooting for him. He seems like, just it's cool to have like a local connection to him, right? Because we had his coach, Ron Mann, on the podcast after Boston, who lives in Louisville. So cool to have a local connection. I don't know if I mentioned this on the pod, but his brother Wesley won the Boston Marathon. I don't know, like 10, 15 years ago, something like that. And he ran at the University of Louisville, and that is kind of how their Louisville connection started. And Wesley owned a house right by U of L, and I lived in it for like half of a school year, essentially. So he was my landlord for a little bit. I never got to meet him in person, but I was paying him as my landlord. So yeah, that's kind of a random connection to the Korir family. Everyone knows, super nice family. I've actually ran with John once too. I forgot to mention that too. I ran with him. I think we did like a 10-mile easy run once when he comes to town every now and then, like him and his brother, every now and then to see Ron Mann in person and get some training in. And I got to run with him once at Seneca Park. So I got a photo with him and a couple buddies. So pretty cool. So yeah, really nice guy. His whole family's Wesley, everyone involved, really nice, great family. So I have the utmost faith that he's a clean athlete, and I wish him the best in going for the world record and the win at Chicago. So who else is competing against John in the men's race? So we have 6 guys under 204. So this isn't going to be like a runaway victory by any means. There's a lot of really high level competitors in this guys race. And I would say the guy that probably has the best shot at not only beating John, but maybe even setting the world record in this race is Jacob Kiplimo. So he's the half marathon world record holder, obviously from Uganda. 56 minutes, 42 seconds in the half. Unbelievably fast. He debuted in London. He got second place, 2:03:37. Really good debut in the marathon. Obviously, like the half marathon doesn't always, just because you're good at the half marathon doesn't always mean you're going to be a great marathoner. There's a really good example of this if you've seen the initial, I think it's a National Geographic documentary where Kipchoge was trying to break 2 for the first time, and they did it around that like F1 track in Italy. There was like 2 other guys that did it with him. One was an Ethiopian guy. It might have been Lalisa Desisa. I'm trying to remember who the other athlete, but the other one was Zerzane Tedesse. Might be butchering that name, but anyways, he was from Eritrea. He was the half marathon world record holder at the time. I think he'd run like 57 mid or 58 low, something like that. And they were like, okay, he's the half marathon world record holder, so he should have a chance at breaking 2 hours in the marathon at this. And it did not go well for him. Like he ran way off it. So, half marathon doesn't always translate to the marathon, but Jacob Kiplimo ran a really good first marathon. He got his feet wet in the distance. I would definitely look out for him to race this aggressively. I know he's going to be on John's heels or in that lead pack. I don't know why he wouldn't be. And you got to think, I'm the half marathon world record holder. This race is going for sub 201. He's going to stick his neck in it. I don't know why he would have entered this race to not be in that lead pack going for that fast time. So I think Jacob Kiplimo has the probably the second best chance to win this race. But if anyone is going to break the world record and win this race, I think it's going to be those 2. If you're a betting person, I wouldn't bet on anyone but those 2 to win the race. I think they just have the best chance to do it based on their pedigree. Someone else of note, I think his PR is like 203 high, 204 low, is Jeffrey Kamworor. He's won the New York City Marathon twice. He hasn't really proven himself in like a faster course, I wouldn't say, but he's really good at like the hillier courses. But he's got really good track pedigree. He's really competitive. He's more outspoken in the media. If you guys have been track fans for a while, he'd always talk smack about Mo Farah on when he was racing the 5K and 10K on the track. So so Jeffrey Kamworor, he's a competitor. I would look out for him too. I think just having won New York City twice, he knows how to win majors. I don't know if he'll be in shape to keep up with those top 2 guys running that fast, but I would expect him to be in that pack and pushing for the win as well, just knowing the competitor he is. And, because he was talking smack to Mo Farah when Mo Farah was like at his peak, closing in like 50 low for 5K and 10K races, like 51, 52, that top end speed. So Yeah, he's going to put his neck in it for sure. There's no doubt about it. Let's move on to the American and North American storylines here. This is the most exciting part for me, right, of this race because we have a American record assault going down with the man, the myth, Connor Mantz. So the cool thing about Connor Mantz is what makes this like more exciting is that Clayton Young and Connor Mantz, we are like seeing their work being done on YouTube more because Clayton's got this awesome YouTube channel where they're posting a lot of workouts and stuff. So we're like, obviously the focus is on Clayton, but we're like seeing Connor in those workouts pretty much every time, seeing Connor splits, how fast he's running. And it seems like Mantz like really like full sends every workout. He's not like, when I'm coaching guys or I'm like going out for a workout, I have like a plan in mind. Like, okay, this is a threshold workout. I'm not going to push over like 175 beats per minute. I'm not going to push over that like 7.5 out of 10 effort. And if I'm doing like a VO2 workout, like, okay, I'm like not trying to go over an 8.5 out of 10 effort. Like, there's not really any workouts where I'm like going all out, right? But Mantz, and maybe he's not going all out, but it certainly seems like it in a lot of workouts that he's like just throwing caution to the wind and sending it. And I'm going to read some of the workouts he's been doing lately on Strava. And maybe you can like kind of pick that up that he's been doing that. But yeah, so just for some context here too, before we do that, the American record's 2:05:38. So, and obviously like Mantz did run faster than that in Boston, but Boston is a net downhill course. So that doesn't count for the American record. So technically he's run 2:05 low, which is faster than the American record, but it wasn't a record eligible course, which is the Boston Marathon. Obviously Boston's a tough course, but it's net downhill. So it does not qualify for American records. So the American record's 2:05:38. Khalid Kanuchi has it. He's had it for a long time. Galen Rupp wanted it, never was able to get it. I don't think he's going to get it now. We'll touch on him later, but let's maybe dive into some workouts that Mantz has been doing and see what you guys think on if he's in shape to do this thing. So he's peaked out at 130 miles per week. That's pretty standard for Mantz. I think he does 125 to 130 most builds. Absolute animal. That's like just short of 20 miles a day. It's like 18 miles a day and change, I believe. So he's getting after it. Here's some recent workouts that he's done in the past few weeks. Did some Strava digging for you guys. Not that I minded to do it. I enjoyed looking through his Strava. So recent workouts, he did 2x4 miles. The first set of 4 miles was 4:42 pace, and the second set was 4:29 pace. He went sub 18 for a 4-mile rep after the first one. So that's really nasty. Moving on, so they do 8-mile PMPs, which is like predicted marathon pace. So it's supposed to be like a marathon pace effort. So he did an 8-mile PMP, predicted marathon pace. First 7 miles were 4:45 down to 4:40 pace, which is right around where he's probably going to want to be racing this race at to get the American record. And then he said the last mile was like a push mile, and he ran 4:18. And there was like no break in between that, right? So he ran 7 miles at like 4:42, 4:43 average, and then finished with a push mile at 4:18. So that's nasty. And keep in mind, like Mantz is at altitude too. It's not like insanely high, but I think it's like 4,000 or 5,000 feet in Provo. So like if me or like someone else at sea level went to Provo and did a tempo workout, it would not be fun. Like we would have to go slower than our pace at sea level. So this is really impressive. And then we gotta read off the fatigue mile repeats. We have to, because that's like their classic workout. Everyone loves to see on the YouTube and stuff. So his last fatigue mile repeats, 8 miles at 5:10. Imagine you're like fatigue, like steady miles or 5:10 pace at altitude. That would be nice. And then he closed that off with 3 by mile, 4:14, 4:11, 4:13, and then he did an 800 and 2:05 to cap that off. So is Connor Mantz in shape to run under 2:05:38 in Chicago if the weather is decent? 100%. He not only, are those workouts nasty, and his training is clearly going very well leading up to the race, just based on Strava. He set the American record in the half in Houston earlier this year. So he's had a really good year. He ran great at the Boston Marathon. Again, ran 2:05 low. So I think Mantz is definitely in shape to do this thing. If you guys follow the sport, at the Boulder too, in the last couple months. He like had that nasty kick to win the 10K at the Boulder. That was really cool to see. So, I mean, based on his Strava, it doesn't look like he's had any injuries. He's dealt with injuries, prior and cross trains like an animal and comes back out of those pretty good. But it seems like this build's been pretty clean. So I think there's a real possibility that Connor Mantz, there's no shot he should go out with the leaders, right? That'd be really goofy to go out in 201 pace with the leaders. He would blow up. Uh, I'm sure like mentally he's like thought about that, like just because he's a dog. But I think realistically, Connor Mantz runs like 204.45 and blows away the American record. I think there's a very real chance that he does that. As long as the weather doesn't get too hot and the wind's not too bad. I think there's a very real chance that Connor Mantz runs 204 high at the Chicago Marathon, and I really hope he does because I will be there again, so I get to witness that. That'd be really cool. Who's his competition though? So this is kind of interesting, right? So Rory Linkletter has said that he's going for the North American record, which is the Canadian record, which is the North American record. So some of you might know this, and I forgot about this. The North American record is actually with Team Canada right now, not Team USA. So Cam Levins set the record. I believe in Tokyo he ran 205.36, which is 2 seconds faster than the American record. So the North American marathon record is now with Team Canada. So fueled by maple syrup itself. Nah, he probably doesn't fuel with that, but he might. But yeah, so Cam Levins has the record, 205.36. Rory Linkletter wants it. So I mean, you gotta imagine Rory is gonna go out with Connor in this race. I'm sure they've talked about it. They're college teammates. Rory's probably gonna go out with Connor. Obviously, like the Canadian record's like primary on his mind, but you got to think like the overall North American record is at play here, because really, like, I mean, if Rory beats Connor, I mean, he has the North American record. If Connor beats Rory, he has the North American record, as long as they're under the time. So there's a little more to play for, I think, with them. Like, obviously, there's their national records, but I think having the North American like record bragging rights between those two is probably like a little added motivation. They're not college teammates anymore. They're not teammates anymore. So I think there's probably like a little bit of, I'm sure Rory's checking Connor's Strava, like, oh, like what's Mantz hitting up there? And then, Connor's checking Rory's like, oh, what kind of workouts is he hitting down in Flagstaff? So I'm sure there's a little like competition brewing. I'm sure they're not like talking smack or anything, but I'm sure they'll, try to run together as long as possible. And then someone will make that last push and get the record. But yeah, that's kind of a fun storyline too, is like who's going to get the overall North American record? Because right now Team Canada has it. They're 2 seconds apart. So that's kind of like a fun little storyline. So let's talk about Rory really quick, break his training down the last few weeks. So he's peaked at 131 miles, 1 mile higher than Mantz, as long as both of them are posting everything on Strava. That seems like about right for what they would peak at. I doubt they're doing more than that. But here's some recent workouts from Rory. So one that really stood out to me was 18 miles at 5:03 pace at 7,000 feet in Flagstaff on Lake Mary Road. Not a completely flat surface either. So really impressive. 7,000 feet, 5:03 pace. I got to think like altitude conversion wise, that's probably 450 low, 440 high at 7,000 feet. I mean, that's really high. So, and again, not a totally flat course. So, and Rory said like that's the best long run he's ever had on Lake Mary. Dude is clearly fit. He ran 207. He's a 207 guy. I think it's pretty reasonable to think that he could probably run 205 mid at this race. I don't think like top end. I want to say like overall top end. I like definitely think there's a more real world where Connor Mantz runs 204 than Rory. However, I'm definitely like not considering Rory for this either. Like he's clearly in great shape. Here's another workout, 3x3 mile, 445 pace again in Flagstaff. So Flagstaff's a bit higher than Provo is. So you got to take Rory's workouts with a grain of salt too, that he's at a higher altitude, but 3x3 mile, 445 pace, really solid. That Lake Mary Road 18 miler though really stands out to me. If Rory's saying that's his best long run workout ever on that road, and he's been training in Flagstaff his whole pro career with a lot of like really good races, that's pretty serious. So yes, I do think that Connor has. I just think like if you're betting on between these two on who's going to win this, like between those two and who's going to set the record, just in my head for some reason I see Mantz running 204 more likely than Rory, but I'm not going to like come on here and say Rory's not, there's no shot Rory does it. Rory's getting really, really good. He's improved a lot the last couple of years. Working with John Green, his coach, has been really successful for him ever since he left Hoka. And he's getting better every year. So I'm not counting Rory out of this conversation at all. I just think that Connor has a slightly higher chance of doing it than Rory, maybe just based on like recent race results and just knowing, Mantz, how, gritty he is and how willing he is to go out really hard and see what happens. So, but I do think we can't expect them to be running together in a pack at least through like 18 to 20. And then it's just going to be like who has that last 10K between those two. So that's a really exciting storyline. A few more storylines here before we wrap. Galen Rupp. So Galen Rupp, people, I think he's 39 years old now, almost 40. And some people are speculating that this is Galen's swan song. He has some sort of connection to Chicago. I think maybe he's like originally from there. He has some family there. There's some sort of like home connection to Chicago. And not only that, he won the race in 2017. So there's a lot of connection and memories for Galen in Chicago. I really don't, he hasn't been running, he hasn't really like had a really good race in quite a bit. He didn't make the last Olympic team, struggled in the trials in Orlando. So, I do not think Galen is even remotely in the conversation with Connor and Rory. If Galen runs under 210, I think that would be a win for him in this race. Anything under 209 would be like A++. But I think anything under 210 for Galen would be like a successful outing for him. Obviously, he's had a very controversial career. If he's clean, then, thank you for what you've done for American distance running. But obviously, working with Alberto, there's always going to be that shroud of doubt. He's never failed a test, so we don't know. But he has done a lot for American distance running. As long as he wasn't doping, I'm a huge fan of his. He's never really like said much in interviews or gone on podcasts or anything, so it's hard to really like know who he is as a person. But there's no doubt he was very committed to the sport. So if this is his last race as a professional runner, just shout out to Galen for an amazing career. I'll never forget watching the 10K. I believe it was in 2012 when him and Mo Farah won 1-2, and just how stoked he was at the finish line. Just absolute goosebumps. That's like very just similar memories to like Centrowitz winning the 1500 in 2016 in Rio, and then Hawker winning in Paris. Just like, there's some moments if you're like a pro track and field marathon fan where like you really get goosebumps, and that like, Meb winning Boston, right? Or Shalane winning New York City. So Galen, there's a lot of moments where he's just been like had some really special runs and really represented Team USA very well. So I hope he was clean throughout his career. If he was, huge fan, absolute workhorse, did everything he could to be the best he possibly could. So big fan. And if this is his last race, thank you, Galen. And I hope you aren't doping, man. So moving on, last few Americans here that of significance in this race. Zuhair Talbi, he's technically still under the Moroccan flag, I think, till next year, but he does have U.S. citizenship now. So I believe at the next Olympic trials, he will be running for Team USA and competing for an Olympic spot. So Zuhair Talbi, friend of the pod, he has a 206 PB. He's been training in Colorado Springs with Paul Chalimo's group, I believe. Looks like his training's going well, so I would expect him to be a force. Honestly, I would expect him to go out with Connor and Clayton's group. And I don't think if he set the American record, it would count yet, but he will be an American, I believe, by the 2028 trials. So not an insignificant person to keep an eye on as he races with the other Americans. So another cool one is Matthew Richtman. If you remember the guy training out of Montana, he won the Los Angeles Marathon in 207. He will be here. This is kind of his first like really big appearance against like other good Americans, I would say. I would say the Los Angeles field wasn't very stacked with like top Americans. So this is like a really interesting race, seeing him run against Mantz and Linkletter. So he's a 207 guy. He's going to be pushed hard, I would imagine, in this race. I think he will probably go out with the Mantz group as long as they're like on 205 low kind of pace. I feel like 204 might be a little bit of too much of a push for Richtman, but I don't know. We'll see what kind of shape he's in. I'll have to check his Strava. I think he posts on Strava. So, but he's a ASICS athlete now, and I would expect him to maybe run like 206 or so in this race if everything works out well. So interesting to see him in this field. We'll see how he does. Last couple Americans here of note. CJ Albertson, of course, so steady. I think he's like really looking for like that breakthrough where he runs like 207, 206. I would expect him. He always races aggressively, so I would expect him maybe to be out there with Mantz and Rory as well. So we'll see what CJ Albertson does, but steady as always. He never has like a true blow up race, I wouldn't say. So like worst case he runs 210 to 11. Best case he runs like 208 usually. But look for him to maybe have a breakout race here. I'm sure that's what he's wanting in this kind of field. Last person to talk about on this episode is Casey Klinger. So Casey is a BYU grad, absolute stud, trains with Connor and Clayton in Provo. This is his debut race. He has really good track times, sub 28 in the 10K, 13 low 5K guy. So, he's been training with Connor. Apparently he's been working out really well with him. So I would expect him to have a really good debut. I don't think he's going to compete with Connor and Rory per se, but I think if he runs 207 mid, I wouldn't be super surprised by that. He's going to be another American that's probably in the discussion when the trials come around in 28. So excited to see what he does. He's a bit older for a college grad. I think he finished with BYU like a year or two ago, maybe a year and a half ago. I think he's like in his late 20s almost. So not as young as you may think, but yeah, we'll see how he does in his debut. So yeah, I'm really excited for both of these races. I'm excited to be there. I think the women's race is going to be really competitive, and I just hope that kind of dark shroud from last year of the world record by a convicted doper is gone this year. Hopefully the winner is totally clean, deserves the win in every way, and it's just a nice, clean competitive race. Really excited to see Dakota Popehn have a good one and race a couple Americans that are right near her pace level. So that should be fun seeing that competition between those 2 or 3 women. And then obviously the men's race. Oh my gosh, like storylines galore, world record on tap potentially. We got John Korir, one of the best marathoners on earth, going up against the half marathon world record holder. We got Rory and Rory and Connor duking it out for the I wish Clayton was here, but he just ran Worlds, so unfortunate. But yep, Connor and Rory duking it out for the North American title, North American record. So overall, again, the North American record, 205.36. American record's 205.38. So look for them to be running under that time and duking it out after mile 20 to get it. Again, Galen Rupp potentially retiring after this race. We'll see. So a lot of storylines here. Going to be a lot of fun. My last thing on this episode, what is Scotty Scarce going to run at the Chicago Marathon? I witnessed this guy run his 5.4321 workout. He's in great shape. He's tapering well. I think, I believe his PR is 239. He ran at Bayshore with me and Danny. We were all at that same race. I think he's in way better shape now. He ran like 5:53 or 4, I think, pace for his 5.4321. I think Scotty runs 2:36.42. So I think he's going to run hair under 6-minute pace average, like 5:58 or 9 overall average pace. And this is going to be a huge step forward for him. So shout out to Scotty. This is also going to be a good test to see if he listens to this. I bet he won't. Scotty, if you're listening to this, shoot me a text. But yeah, 2:36.42. That's my guess for Scotty Scarce at the Chicago Marathon. Should be like a 2.5 or 3 minute PR. So that'd be really cool. So, but all right, guys. Hope you enjoyed this Chicago Elite Field preview. If I screwed anything up, let me know. But I think I got it all right. So, but yeah, really excited for this race. Let me know. Drop a comment. Who do you think is going to win the women's and men's race? And then is Rory or Connor going to be in front of one or the other? So are you team Rory or team Connor? Let me know. Drop it in the comments. But all right, if you enjoyed the episode, please leave a review. And of course, with these solo episodes, I really appreciate feedback. So if you have any feedback, positive or negative, I'm all ears. I've already had some constructive criticism that has been really helpful for me on these episodes. So any constructive criticism, I'm all ears. Totally open to it. Don't even hesitate. It really helps me out to make these better for you guys. So hope you enjoy. And yeah, Chicago Marathon, about 10 days out. Let's do it. Leave a review, please. And again, drop a comment and share with a friend. Catch you on the next one.